Welcome to the Red Beard Embodiment Podcast. I am your host, Alex Greene, and I'm on a mission to bring the power of embodiment to people all around the world. In this podcast, we explore how embodiment practices, trauma healing, and knowledge about the human nervous system can help us find our ground, discover new sources of meaning, and create connection in an ever-changing world. The deepest change is embodied change. All right. Well, I'm sitting down today with my dear friend and collaborator, Maria Alfaro. And Maria is a TRE certification trainer and a longtime yoga teacher. Prior to that, we'll hear about her whole history. She's the co-founder of Neurogenic Yoga, which is a sister organization to TRE that's taking the tremoring from TRE into the yoga world. And Maria and I first connected in Japan in 2017, I think. 2018, where we both attended a advanced conference and were there as speakers outside of Osaka, Japan. And we became fast friends and then co-teaching leading up to the pandemic and some other things along the way. So I thought it would be awesome to sit down with you, Maria, and just hear a little bit about your own journey around the body and the nervous system and how you found your way to TRE in your life path and what it has meant for you. What you've learned from this lifelong exploration of yours. So thanks so much for taking time today.
Well, it's so nice to see you always. And yes, it's good that we had this great friendship and collaboration since 2018. So let's see where to start. Well, we all teach what we need to learn, right? So my own personal childhood trauma led me to always be interested in ways to heal ourselves and potentially help others once we have done some work on ourselves. And as in the path of doing that, well, I came to the United States in 1991. After
from Italy, I didn't mention that.
I was kind of traveling around, and I was a little burned out because I've been running an international business for like 8 years or so. We were doing different things in Asia, jewelry making. So that life became kind of meaningless to me at some point, and so I was trying to do something new. And so I came to the United States, to California, to visit some people that I actually met in India, and I got invited to visit Esalen, the Esalen Institute south of where I live right now in Big Sur. And so that place is kind of fascinating. It was more fascinating in the 90s and even more in the 70s or the 60s. But anyway.
Yeah, the 70s, yeah. Many traditions and many stories emanating from Esalen.
They started all there. But when I was there, it was still in the brink. It was not fully corporate like it is now, but it was still a quite interesting place. So I managed to land a work scholarship there. And so I lived there for 2 years. And I got exposed to a lot of great modality and did a lot of healing on myself. And when I came out of that, I decided that California was a good place to make my home for a while. And so in the search of, I didn't want to do business anymore. So I draw on I already was practicing yoga for like 10 years or so, which I started in India. And so I became a yoga teacher. I studied with Ronnie, with Anna Forrest. I did a bit of the Iyengar Institute. It was a little bit too rigorous for me. Anyway, so I made my living teaching yoga, and I did that all over Silicon Valley, San Francisco, all these areas. And in 2004, just when I was starting to be a little tired of all the driving, I was driving like 3,000 miles a month to make a living. That's when I met David Berceli, the founder of TRE, and he came to Santa Cruz to teach a workshop. And for me, it was pretty not so much for what he did for me in the moment, but more seeing what he was doing for everybody else. I
Right.
realized, wow, there is something here that is very powerful, very accessible, and I want to do more. And so the rest is history. Basically, from then on,
Yeah.
I start following David around, and so that was 2004. So it's almost 20 years. Gee, time flies.
Time. Well, so we'll get to that part of things. I guess I've got two questions. One is going back to the Esalen years. 2 years is that's quite a work study. Can you just share a little bit about what you did? Like, what was your work study? What you mentioned some of it was self-healing. You were exposed to other things. You told me you had lunch with Terrence McKenna at one point. Can you just give us a little bit of flavor of
Okay.
Esalen in the
90s.
mid 90s?
Beginning 90s, actually. That was 92 and 93, I believe I was there. So, 92 and 93. So basically, well, I was a duck, which was one of the most respected position on the property. I was a dishwasher and a town runner. So it was a kind of intense job that now is done by two paid guys. But I swing it pretty well. And let's see, I did so many different things. So I was well, first of all, I participated and completed their massage training, which was very cool because it was done at the tabs, and the whole training we were naked, so it was very freeing and nature outside. So it was awesome. So I have that certification too. But then there were lots of different things. Some of the ones that I liked the most was self-expression workshops, using art, theater, acting, dancing to, basically get rid of your tension is a different approach. I did a lot of workshops on meditation, sexual healing, since I come from a background of being abused as a kid. I did, wow, there were so many. I did shamanic workshops. I did, I already mentioned massage. I did music workshops. I did movement workshop, yoga workshops, Tai Chi workshops. Really, there are too many to list.
As a resident, were you just sort of allowed to join any program that was there as long as you fulfilled your work? Is
Well,
that what the
no,
arrangement
the
was?
way that it was working then is that you have a kind of a staple that didn't pay us for our work. So we have room and board, and then
Right.
we have a staples
Yeah.
of about $500 a month to invest in workshops. But we were paying the leader fee. So if your workshop, let's say, was $700, the leader fee was $80. That's what the facilitators were getting. So
I
$500
see.
was going a long way. So I could
Yeah,
take
I
4 or
see.
5 or more workshops every month, something like that.
I see. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, and Terrence
Very cool.
McKenna, right? I took a couple of workshops with him. What an interesting man. He was really super sweet.
Is he still
No,
alive? I can't
he's dead
remember.
for several years now. He had cancer.
Okay.
But it was really
And
interesting.
he's the one who sort of did a lot of research around psychedelics and sort of like kind of like following Stanislav Grof's work in terms of mapping the psyche with DMT or something like that.
Exactly.
Isn't
And he
that
was very interesting because
okay?
as a facilitator now, he had this hypnotic voice that it was so difficult to stay awake, although what he was talking about was incredibly interesting. I found myself going like, sort of dozing into another dimension. But then when we had lunch, it was actually way more, his tone of voice was different. It was way more engaging. And he's a sweet guy with a lot of knowledge and a big heart. I really enjoy getting to meet him. I also got to
Very
meet
cool.
the wife of Aldous Huxley, which was there for a seminar. Older, sparky lady. I mean, she was something else. And I think it was in a conversation. I forgot if it was in a conversation with her or talking about her with somebody else or not. But anyway, it came out that actually Aldous Huxley took LSD on his deathbed. Well, as he was dying, he took
Right.
LSD and he went out that way, which I thought
He died the way he lived, I
it was
suppose.
quite an amazing story. Yeah. So
Interesting. Very cool. Okay, so anyway, so flash forward. So now you taught yoga all around you, and then you met David, and then what you shared was, in some ways, you were, if I heard you correctly, you were more struck by, you saw some other people's powerful experiences, and that kind of even more than your own. Is
oh yeah,
that
my experience
accurate?
was pretty
What?
boring initially with TRE. I mean, I'm a kind of a tough cookie because I'm
Yeah,
kind of guarded and also kind of controlling, and my body's pretty strong. So the combination of those things made it for, kind of a mild tremoring response. While in that room at that time, this was 2004, we were not talking as much about self-regulation, so there was,
sure.
there were people that were having quite, okay, I never
Big
tend to talk about,
yeah,
extremely cathartic experience that include screaming and
sure.
bouncing around, and I was like, whoa, because my body will not do that. But the feedback that they were giving, it was a group of 32 people, and interestingly enough, I'm the only one that took it up and brought it forward.
Who became a
Yes.
provider? Yep. Yep.
But so the feedback was incredible. I mean, and I saw people really changing quite significantly in front of my eyes. So I was like, wow, even if this doesn't seem to work that rapidly for me, it's definitely something
Right.
that is very effective and very quick.
Right.
Because as you know, I mean, what I always tell my students is everything works if you do it. Yoga, psychotherapy, massage, body work,
Mm.
Tai Chi, art, therapy, whatever we do works, but all of those things require the significant investment in time and energy. There is nothing, in my opinion, that is as
Mm.
quickly, I mean, the amount of time and energy that you invest in TRE practice is really small in comparison with the results that you can harvest often in quite quickly.
Right. Yep.
So that
Good
was
point.
my impression then, and so I decided to look into it deeper, and at that time there was not a
Mm.
certification program. So I just, at that time, you just teach. No, what was the story? You have to practice for 3 months every day, and then you can teach.
Mm. I
And so
see.
that's what I did.
Yep.
And I taught a couple of thousand people. And then I realized, oh, now there is a certification program. And so I called David and I joined the boat.
Right. Yeah. 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 So in those, uh, once you practice on your own for 3 months, and then you started working with others, and I assume a lot of those people may have were your students, your yoga students, or
Yeah, yes
people,
and no,
or
because
primarily,
I had
or
a lot
yeah,
of, I mean, a lot. I had a significant following in this area because I was already teaching yoga for like 8 years or so. So, yeah, first of all,
sure.
I started teaching it to my students. So basically, I offered workshops for people that were already on my mailing list. But the word
Mm.
spread, So I mean, I think one of the first workshop I did here in Santa Cruz had 45 people,
Hmm.
which is pretty significant. I mean, this is a small town, so I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And so then
Mm.
after doing this for, what was it, 6 years or so, I
Right.
decided to try to take it to the next step because I was really impressed by what it was doing for people, the feedback and the transformation and the healings. So it was like, wow, this is more effective than
Sure.
yoga. The beauty, although I did participate in the creation of neurogenic yoga, I mostly let my partner Jenica run it. And there is a variety of reasons to that. One is that I'm a little burned
Mm.
out on teaching yoga. One.
Mm.
Number two, the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic has really sort of, the whole yoga community, there were a lot of things that bounced back and forward that didn't really rub me the right way. And also the fact that yoga is for people. I mean, neurogenic yoga is for people that like yoga, or at least tolerates yoga or are interested in tolerating yoga. But TRE is for everybody and more.
Right.
Anybody can learn
Right.
TRE. So I really like
Yep.
this factor about it, that it's not an elite
No
population. Yeah,
barriers for
no
entry.
barrier
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
entry. Anyone can practice it. Anyone can benefit from it. While neurogenic yoga is more
Yeah.
complicated in a way.
Mm, mm, mm. Well, so in these, what did you say? 2004? Yeah. So 19 years. It's been quite the ride, in your TRE, career. Um, what are some of the, I know you traveled, quite, quite a bit, where David was. I think you've been involved I think you did some of your own programs, maybe in Palestine, Indonesia, something like that. Can you tell a little bit about the sort of
Sure.
the international work you've done with
Yeah,
TRE?
so since I live in a small town, okay, so all my life I've been traveling before coming here for pleasure, for business, but I've been probably because due to my history, I tried to run as far as possible away from Italy as I could. So I went
Mm,
to India, in 75 and in 77 cross country. So I was always traveling and I met a lot of people in my travels. I lived in
sure.
Indonesia because of my business. I lived in Holland because I had friends and I was doing theater there. So I live in Scandinavia. So I had connection in all of those places. Also, I've been going to all
Yeah.
the conferences of TRE. So the combination of those things, and since there were not many trainers, I mean, I was one of the first 10 trainers, 15 trainers in the world. Okay. So
Mm,
TRE was not offered in many countries. And so what I did, I
mm,
just reconnected or connected or, call many of my friends around the world, like in Holland, for example, and say, hey, I'm doing this cool thing. Are you interested in hosting a workshop? We did. There were 50 people came in Amsterdam to the
mm,
class. And so there was
mm,
obviously a fertile ground. And then some people were there
mm,
from Belgium. So they invited me. So I did trainings in Holland. I did trainings in Belgium. And actually, I trained some of the trainers. I mean, initially, as provided the trainers in these countries. Then I had friends in Scandinavia. I'm friend with Barbro, which is the trainer in Sweden. I mean,
mm-hmm.
in Norway. So I did
Norway. Yep.
I did neurogenic yoga workshops there, and also in Sweden and in Finland and Indonesia. Well, yeah, there was a natural. Again, I have friends there, so I went and did training there. Yeah, probably the most interesting and fulfilling thing I did, although I lost money on it, was doing provisional trainings in Palestine and teaching neurogenic yoga in Israel. Also, I did trainings
Mm,
in Jordan. Actually, I started in Jordan because I knew
mm,
somebody there. So she invited me. I did a couple of trainings in Jordan. And then from there, I was always interested in going to see by myself what's going on in Palestine. So I went to
mm.
Palestine
Right.
with the connection that I got from Jordan. And there I met this really great woman, and she organized this community trainings in Palestine. So I did four of them. So I went there three
Mm-hmm.
years in a row, and I spent time. And this was
Mm-hmm.
all done.
Yeah, when was that
I
in the,
think the first time I went to Jordan was probably 2015 or 16, and then I went to Palestine in 16, 17, and 18. And
mm,
I
mm,
worked again with the same groups. The problem
mm,
is that you need consistency and what do you call it? I cannot
practice?
afford to keep going back every year, out of my
Sure.
pocket. So I did it for a few years. I certified. Okay, there is a different kind of certification because they're supposed to teach together and it's a little more
Right.
restrictive.
Community
Yeah,
facilitators,
community
right?
facilitation.
Yeah.
But I know that they were mostly therapists and social workers.
Mm,
Probably I certified
mm,
60 people,
mm,
therapists and social workers, but there were two different cities like Bethlehem and Nablus, which is a very trouble
mm,
spot there. But anyway, the ones in Nablus, they were students of psychotherapy and social work. I also presented at the university there for the Faculty of Psychology. We went to a lot of different community centers, women's centers, refugee centers. It was extraordinary. I had this great assistant from Denmark, Ulla, and we had a blast. I mean, it was really very heartwarming and fun and effective. However, these people need more consistency. They need somebody, and I tried to train some regular provider, but it was really complicated. And then COVID hit, and that's when everything came to a standstill.
Slowed things down. Yeah. Did you? I just watched. David recently released his, in short videos about each of the locations he lived as he was developing TRE. Did you watch that? And there was the one, I think he was in Israel and Palestine, maybe in the late 90s or something like that. I wonder, did you ever compare notes of
with him,
you teaching TRE? With David.
Talk to him back then, and he also helped me put together a video, which was like a report. I mean, he edited basically a report on the. I can send it to you if I find it, but a report on my experience there and what I did and what we achieved there, and I never really sat down and compared notes. Is this on his YouTube channel?
Yeah, it just came out a few weeks ago.
I have to check it out.
I'll put a link in the show notes for that. Yeah, wow. So after you stopped going yearly, have you stayed in touch a little bit? Have you heard anything about how
some of them? I mean, we are friends on Facebook also, so we comment on each other's stuff. But I haven't really kept an ongoing support system, no, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, so I have an interesting question. So in these 19 years, from when you started TRE till today, I've got sort of two questions that are related. The first is, how has TRE changed? You've said a little bit about it, but I want to hear a little bit more. And then how has it changed you at all? Have you been changed by your career in TRE? Which one do you want to start with?
I want to start with how TRE changed. Well, as I said, when I started, it was just David with this projector traveling around with a little suitcase. So TRE definitely has changed a lot.
Right.
I would say, okay, we don't want to even talk about the boring structure, because people are not interested in that. But I would say that the most fundamental change has been the fact of paying more attention to the way that people are receiving that, basically self-regulation. We were not talking about
self-regulation.
that then, because
in the beginning, right?
Because as you know, TRE has a strong root into bioenergetic. And I think bioenergetic, I haven't done a bioenergetic session for over 20 years, but when I did it back then, and they tell me that there's also evolved and changed. But at that time, bioenergetic was pretty cathartic in nature. They wanted you to
very much so.
To a big explosion of whatever, And so my first experience with David was that it was similar in a way. People were having cathartic experiences right and left, and they were not told to stop or take breaks and
to contain or self-regulate.
And it was like, they were all fairly okay people, so nobody lost it permanently. But there were definitely moments of strong stuff flying around the room.
Strong activation. A lot was going on.
And I noticed that as we progress over the years, that's probably the biggest difference. Is now we don't let people go there. We just want them to titrate, to take things a little bit at the time.
Totally. I was going to say, it seems like, probably in the beginning, so concepts like titration, which a lot comes from Peter Levine, but even in the beginning, was there the connection to the polyvagal theory, or did that come a little bit later?
That came just after. I don't want to say anything wrong, but I don't believe that there was any talk about polyvagal theory in the 2012 or 13.
Yeah, that's what I think too, because when I started my training in 2014, I think it was a little bit of a new piece. And the polyvagal theory created just a little bit of a roadmap of the nervous system that helps with this idea of, creating this idea of, titration and things like that. So yeah, so that difference makes a lot of sense to me. I wonder what you tell your students and clients, but something that I find myself saying a lot now is, look, I care how this TRE session goes for you. I hope it's a good one. I hope it's successful. I hope there's something good that comes out of it. But I care even more about what the next 2 months of TRE sessions are going to do for you. I don't care that today some big amazing experience happens. I'm more interested in what happens over a period of time with some consistent self-regulated practice. So that's kind of the way I language it. What would be your version of that?
Well, what I tell them is that the most important thing is that they feel safe and relaxed, present, comfortable, and safe at all times, regardless of what the experience looks like or feels like. That is not about having big tremors. Sometimes the small tremors are actually going deeper, the vibrational buzzy ones. I tell them that the
Right.
amount of shake is not related to neither to the amount of trauma that they have, nor to the amount of stress and trauma that they are releasing. Everybody's wired differently. So it's more related to, again, how they're wired neurophysiologically, how controlling they are, how strong they are, what did they did today before having the session. So to let go, basically to take it as a meditation, in the sense we don't sit in meditation going, today is going to be great, because maybe it's going to suck, but you sit with it and you keep it comfortable, knowing that the overall effect is going to be accumulating release. The more you do it, the more cumulative you feel better. And maybe it's not the
Right.
thing that you have on top of your list. I mean, if people, I'm sure you agree, if people come to you and say, I want to release my car accident, I go, well, okay, but maybe your body will decide to release the time you were chased by a dog when you were 5 and you don't even remember, but your body does. So we don't know what it is, and we don't need to know what it is. If you need to know what it is, not because you want to, but because it's important for your integration, then your body will let you know, because you will have a dream or a sensation or a picture or something along.
Sure.
Frankly, the only frustration that I have are, because I'm really still enjoying, I mean, after 20 years, every time I present or teach, I feel brand new. So I'm still very excited about this work. My only frustration remains that a lot of people then don't do it. It remains this interesting, strange
No, novelty.
novelty experience that then they don't do again. And that's why I offer those refresher classes, because I really would like to support people to do it, because if we do it, it can really make a difference in our life. If we don't do it, then again,
Right.
it's just a little curiosity that we experience. But that's the base of everything. And that's why I banged the nail on the fact that there is nothing. I mean, it is not like you have to commit to 3 hours a week. It can be 10 minutes here and there. Come on, everybody has 10 minutes here and there. Well, and then your other question about what it did for me. Well, at the physical level, it really freed me from some long-term, lifelong intestinal difficulties that I had, due probably to my history. They're very common in women. And so, yeah, my digestion now works like a Swiss clock, and that's for a long time.
Sure.
And at the mental and emotional level, I think it gave me a lot of, I've been called aggressive. and now I think I turn more into assertive. I mean, I'm still assertive, but I used to have a very short what you call it,
Fuse.
fuse. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Very short fuse. And in the face of
Yeah.
injustice, I will turn into a cougar. Not in that sense, maybe a
Yeah.
jaguar. So that is I've been able, and I noticed that for whatever reason, maybe I'm traveling, I don't practice for a week or so, I noticed that my fuse tends to shorten. So it's maintenance, it's not just that you do it. It's like brushing your teeth or any other practice. You're a meditator, so you know that. It's not you do it
Sure.
once and then you're
Sure.
done. But I noticed that
Right.
really helped me down regulate my reactivity to the stress or injustice, and I can be way more effective in what I do because I don't react as easily. And for me, that is big because it was one of my social problem. People say, you never think before you talk, and now I can think before I talk.
Got it. That's a good explanation. What about so that's to me, so that sounds like, some of what you've gained from your practice, from, some time with it. And I imagine, and maybe this is the same answer as this, but I guess I'm a little bit reflecting for myself. It's sort of like, maybe I've taught 20 or 30 modules, but you've of TRE training, you've taught 140 or,
Yeah,
something
140,
like
something
that.
like that.
So my own reflection is that, part of what keeps me in it, you said, you're still fresh, or you still come at it like a baby. To me, what keeps me in it is a little bit like, each, as when it has a powerful effect on people, when it changes them, when something opens up for them, when they have a new relationship to themselves or their nervous system, uh, there's like something deeply enriching for me. And so share a little bit about that. I mean, you've had 20 years of watching people, maybe more, because probably people were already transforming in yoga before you did TRE. But as you've kind of witnessed people's personal journeys, what has that been like for
Oh
you?
my God, this is what keep it for me fresh. And, I think at this point, I probably facilitate TRE for, it's hard to tell, but I think it's close to 20,000 people. I mean, nothing to what
Mm,
David did, but it's a lot of
mm,
people. And the
mm,
first of all, the beauty of seeing that is that we are really all the same, so it doesn't matter if we are Indonesian, Palestinian, or Finnish. Excuse me.
mm.
People respond in a similar way. Some countries tend to
Sure.
be a little more contained and go, like, for example, the Middle East, they tend to go more towards freezing than flooding, if anything, because they
Hmm.
have to be contained. But
Mm,
these are different, small cultural differences, but really the body respond in a very similar way. But most important, the way that they feel is very similar.
hmm.
So the amount of liberation that people report, and this is like physical, mental, emotional, and he expressed in so many different ways. I mean, the fact that people walk away from a workshop without the pain that they brought into the workshop, this is phenomenal. I
Mm,
mean, that never happened to me with yoga. Only once in
mm,
my long life of teaching yoga, once somebody called me the next day and said, this class changed my life. It happened once.
mm,
With TRE, it happens all the
mm,
time. I have stack of testimonials this high.
mm,
People that tell me during the pandemic, I received a letter from this therapist that told me, look, your class it literally saved my life. My husband died of
mm,
cancer in the middle of the pandemic. The isolation that I felt, the pain, the grief, the loneliness,
mm.
without TRE, I don't think I would have made it. So I want to
Yep.
be grateful to you and Dr. Berceli. And by the way, she also sent me $500 just as a
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yep.
So I mean, of course, the money are great, but I mean, I cry. I have the letter on my wall.
Mm,
When I ever feel a doubty day, I look at the letter. I was like, this is why I'm doing this. But also
mm,
fun. I
mm.
mean, I have hundreds of stories. Another one this was one of my favorite. Because we always tell them that the dreams are a way that the body process stuff. So and so to pay
Sure. Sure.
attention. So I work with this
Yeah.
couple. few months back. And after a few days, he sent me an email and said, look, I have to tell you this because you tell us to pay attention to the dreams. For since I'm married with my wife, I've been having this recurrent anxious dream in which I try to reach her by phone and it doesn't go through. Either the phone is broken, she cannot hear, I cannot. So there's always a problem with the phone. And it's very stressful because I had to reach her. It's danger, blah, blah, blah. So she said the night after we did TRE, I had the same dream, but this time I could reach her and I could talk to her, you know, and the things was resolved. And I was like, oh my God, you know. So, and this is just a little example. Another thing I can share is, so veterans is not my niche, obviously, but I work, I've been invited, I taught at several veteran retreats and different things. And so one of this retreat, it was organized in Orange County by a therapist, which is now certified. And basically, it was a week-long residential retreat in which they were exposed to a lot of different modalities, and it was free for them. And the only agreement that they had to sign was that they stay for the whole week and that they give feedback at the end of the week about the different programs. And they did all kinds of things: Tai Chi, Qigong, art, yoga, psychotherapy, group work, a lot of, and TRE. One class of TRE.
Once in that week.
Once TRE in that week. So at the end of the thing, she called me to tell me, look, the unanimous, it was about 30 people in this program. The unanimous response was that the thing that works the best for them was TRE. And I hear this from veterans a lot. I slept the best night of my life in the last 10 years. My digestion finally works again. I have no more panic attacks. And some people just after one class, because my opinion is that the more the organ is tight and compressed, it's like a balloon ready to explode. If you just give it a little...
the more benefit you get at the beginning. Is that what you mean?
Yes, the more you can feel a difference. Because if your only stressor is that your kids are getting B at school, of course, you will feel less of a relief, you know.
Impact.
But if you are really very contracted, the release is incredible. I mean, you can really feel the difference.
Tremendous.
Yeah, that's at least that's been my observation with this more wound up groups.
Those are great examples. I mean, to me, what's funny is it's hard to get I get a little bit, I don't know what the word is, immune, or like it's like, it becomes almost so commonplace that, you know, of course, you know, this changed this person's life, and that, you know, this was the most effective thing for managing their stress and anxiety. And so it's sort of always funny to me that it's so effective for so many people. And once in a while, I have to sort of remind myself, wow, it's like I just get a little bit numb to sort of how much change is taking place for people. So it's
you are also a mine of endless trainings. I mean, you have so many things on your plate that you do with people.
Right.
But I mean, a question for you, don't you find, because you know so much, you do somatic experience, now you're doing Feldenkrais, you do brain spotting, you do, what is it, the internal family
structural
integration, all this stuff.
Yep.
Isn't TRE at the top towards the top of the list of as far as effectiveness and rapid results?
Well, yes. Yeah. I mean, the way I see it, I'll answer that. Yes, it's sort of like a yes and what I feel is that very often it's like I'm layering things, like we're doing TRE and you know, IFS it comes up organically, or we're doing somatic experiencing and then now we shift into TRE. So there's reason, you know, so sometimes TRE is the first thing and the only thing. Sometimes it's yes, this, and let's do this other piece. But it's almost very rarely am I working with somebody long term and TRE doesn't become a major, you know, sort of cornerstone of the treatment approach. And then the other thing about it is that it's of the things that I do, it's the only thing that somebody can completely do independently, or they can join a class. So it's the thing that provides continuity. Like even if somebody goes through 10 sessions of, structural integration body work with me, which is a transformational process, but, uh, if they are also committing during that same time of they're doing TRE once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, it's like an exponential amount of benefit. So yeah, I mean TRE is just right there in terms of its. And I totally agree with you that, and it's always something that I say from the beginning, like you may as well try this. As soon as it feels safe, let's try this, because there's a good chance that this is going to do a lot of the work, and a lot of that work might even happen not even you and I together. So that aspect of things is huge from my perspective.
Yeah, because that's exactly what a lot of, I train a lot of therapists, probably like you do, a lot of therapists and a lot of body workers. And what they tell me is
Right.
that TRE is making their job as body workers or psychotherapists easier. Because as a body worker,
Totally.
it's easier to massage a body that is not shielded and guarded. And as a psychotherapist, that what they have to offer actually sinks in. While if
Mm.
again is a different kind of barrier and resistance, but it's similar in a way. And so yeah, it's a great tool for these people. So I guess since you do a lot of body work, probably you see that.
Yeah. Okay, so I have another question, changing the subject
Yeah, sure.
slightly. So at the beginning of the pandemic, and you and I think we had to cancel our Pasadena program because and then we kept waiting. We kept waiting for the opportunity and we didn't know at the beginning how long we'd be suffering through the pandemic. But anyway, you and I kind of had a similar instinct at the beginning, which was, hey, we just need to start. This is a major situation for the country, for the world. If anything is going to be a good tool for self-regulation, it's TRE. And so both you and I just launched these free classes online, and many of our students kind of came to both things, so that for a while we had coverage almost every day of the week in the first 6 months of the pandemic. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. I mean, to me, that was a really powerful thing for me. It gave me something I could do in my small way in the face of kind of what we were facing. But what about for you? Just share a little bit about what that, launching your online classes, which are ongoing to this day.
Well, there are
What's
two
that been like
aspects
for
to that.
you?
The trainings. I mean, initially I was really resistant on doing online training. Now I think that
Right,
they
right,
are great. I mean, people really respond well. And as you know, I don't know if you were too, but I was part of that pilot project that they did to take it online, and
yeah,
I did
I
yeah,
was.
a few
Yep,
trainings, and I was convinced that actually it works. But the
yep.
classes, that was a very strong emotional support for me. I mean, like you were
Hmm.
saying, it made me feel like I was able to do something about it, which is something. I mean, I'm always been an active. I like to do something to change the situation without stressing, because I mean, we have very
Hmm.
little impact as individuals, but we can have impact on somebody. And so those
Hmm.
classes like yours, they were packed, and people were
Hmm.
reporting so many benefits. So I felt like I and they're still packed, by the way. Now they're by donation,
Hmm.
but I felt like they were helping me as much
Right.
as they were helping others, because I felt like I created a community around me. I created a
Hmm.
community that I was loosely leading, but I was really part of it, because I mean, to see
Hmm. Hmm.
people benefit from it was a solace to my soul. I was feeling really okay. We're gonna get out of this, on the other side of this, stronger and healthier and more connected. So I think it was
Right.
really it was very heartwarming, and that's why I still do it. Because I mean, now, okay, first of all, it's not like we are out of the pandemic. We are sort of out of the pandemic, but the
Right.
community still stands.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and this
Yeah.
is really, and I can see people changing. I mean, there are some people that come all the time. Your mom is coming again now. I saw her last week.
Oh, good. Yeah, she's had some house construction that has interfered, but no, my mom. She's been consistent. It's been a big deal for her these 3 years.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
love your mom. She's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Very cool. Well, is there anything we should touch on that we haven't? I want to make sure people know about your website and your upcoming trainings and classes. So let's at least do that. Anything else to?
Well, let me think. Well,
Uh,
first of all, I want to reiterate the fact that I want to teach with you again in person because it was so much fun to do, and we will do it as soon as we have the opportunity. So probably I would say
yeah,
towards the end of this year, I think it would be, what do you think? It would be a good time to do it again.
I think so. Timing feels right.
It's
Yeah.
starting to open up again. And no, I think we talked about pretty much everything. I mean, the thing, yes, I think we are a phenomenal pair. Remember how easy and effortlessly everything unfolded, and people thought that we
Yeah.
were teaching together for years. So it was our first time, and we were not even presenting. We were having conversations about the slides. It was so great. It was really good. We have a great teaching chemistry.
Yeah.
So let's see. People, I mean, my refresher classes, which are only for people who did TRE before, people can sign up by going to
Okay.
the global website. They're listed there because they have to fill up a little form.
At traumaprevention.com.
Yeah,
Yep.
or
Okay.
treforall.org. But I
Yep.
don't list them on my website, not to create confusion
Okay.
with the other things that I offer. So on my website, which is trecalifornia.com, they can find all my workshops. I do regular online and in person 2 hours introductories. Anybody that attend one of those workshops can come to the refresher classes. I also, of course, do private sessions like you do. They can contact me through my website. My trainings are online at this point. The next in person will be with you, but they are online. And I have one actually coming up this weekend, July 15 and 16 online. There's still spots available. And again, they can find the information at trecalifornia.com.
Great. When will be the next one after that?
You mean the next module one? Probably I will do it sometimes on the fall. I would say beginning of November.
Yeah.
I try to space them a little bit. Beginning of November, probably.
Sure.
Usually I post the new one once the date of the current one is passed, so that I'm not in competition with myself.
Totally. Well, very good. Well, Maria, thanks so much for sharing kind of your overview. I really, it's fun to hear the broad perspective from a couple decades in the work, and we have so much fun teaching and hanging out personally, but we don't always take the time to kind of have this sort of longer conversation. So I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always fun to exchange ideas and facts with you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Red Beard Embodiment Podcast. To learn more, visit us at redbeardsomatictherapy.com or send me an email at alex@redbeardsomatictherapy.com. If today's conversation resonated with you, help spread the word by subscribing and sharing with others. Hope to see you next time.